What to do? We got casual geographic. Let's get straight to it.
Show affection. We'll bond with certain individuals and follow them around. We'll often bring someone an object and play tug of war. Gentle, inquisitive, and very intelligent. You'd think all this was from someone describing their dog. Actually, these quotes are all from people talking about vultures. The Jurassic-sized graveyard griefing alopecia pigeon actually has the personality of an imprinted puppy. You might not know that, because most times people see one, it's either thousands of feet above the earth looking for death, or on the ground feeding off it. Truth is, the vulture just might be the most generationally misunderstood bird, and in the spirit of Earth Day, I'm going to be talking about the top 10 most maligned and honestly reputationally screwed over animals. In my biased opinion. You can't please everyone, but I like my list, so let's get into it. Starting off, it's not hard to see how vultures got done dirty. It's pretty hard to earn public favor when you dive bowels deep in a bloated buffalo for a living. Then you add the fact that they'll leak liquid nasty all over their legs to stay cool, projectile vomit in self-defense, and in a world of pretty privilege, vultures have a homely handicap. But anyone who's worked with them will swear by how smart they are. They're arguably the smartest birds that aren't corvids or parrots, and they're part of the exclusive group of animals able to make and use tools, with Egyptian vultures using a rock to have an ostrich-sized omelet. And yeah, get on their good side and it's like having a lapdog with wings. Apollo was a turkey vulture who apparently caught feelings for her caretaker Dave. They're also smart enough for a vulture vendetta to be a real thing. But what makes them underrated is just how much worse our quality of life would be without them. Botulinum toxins is the deadliest natural substance known to man, and vultures eat it like candy. Vultures can also tank tuberculosis, anthrax, and even the bubonic plague. Folks associate them with death and disease, but that's exactly what they help prevent. And if you want to know what happens when you avoid vultures, look no further than India. With about a 99% loss, vultures in India suffered one of the worst bird blights in history, mostly thanks to a drug given to cattle that also caused kidney failure in the feathery coffins. And with less of nature's cleanup crew taking care of expired bodies, the number of feral dogs went up, and so did cases of rabies. And if you remember my Halloween video, a rise in rabies might be the biggest jihad to the human race. But that's not the only social work vultures offer for free. The turkey vulture's nose is so OP, they've actually been used to help find gas leaks, with engineers putting special chemicals in pipes. And with them being more corpse happy than a necro in a morgue, many places rely on vultures as alarms against poaching activity. Unfortunately, the poachers started to catch on and have been murking the snitch tweeties by the hundreds, even the ones that are endangered. Worst part is, they're pretty easy targets because it's hard to hide when you're part-time in the sky, and there's no witness protection for a sewer stork. Pretty easy to victimize when you're vulnerable and easy to track, and these are vultures we're talking about. It's not like they have cloaks or camouflage or a VPN. And you know, that last one would actually help a lot, since something like NordVPN would help the sky caskets go off the grid. Since NordVPN creates an encrypted tunnel for your data and protects your identity by hiding your IP address, which means, unlike vultures, you can disappear to a place no poacher can find you. Another difference is, where you can find a flying carcass merchant anywhere that isn't Antarctica or, weirdly enough, Australia, NordVPN allows you to connect to one of thousands of servers across countries all over the world. Which means if you want to enjoy some wild Australian entertainment, Hank of a Raptor, Tyria, NordVPN's threat protection.com/casualgeo for risk-free. Nothing about being a vulture is risk-free. That's why the condor nearly got wiped off the census. But in a W from humanity, conservation efforts help bring the big bird back from the brink. Hopefully people start to come around to vultures. Anything that chill with capybara can't be that bad. Just too bad you can't say that about number 9. The Grim Reaper once released a gang of guppies into the Amazon and made it our problem. Or at least that's what you would think from how much the media gets on them. You've probably heard that piranhas can undress a cow down to the bones in minutes, and that skinny dipping in a pool of piranhas is one way to get blacklisted from breathing. Truth is, these fish felons are mostly scavengers, and when you do see one with an expired body, they're usually not the cause, but a symptom. They don't go out of their way to homicide humans. Most attacks involve people either splashing around like prey or getting way too close to a feeding frenzy. But they're basically the bees of water. They don't want smoke, quite the opposite. For all that face, piranhas are naturally timid and scare easy. So much that you actually have to give them places to hide in an aquarium because of just how neurotic they are. Also, they're not strictly meat. They'll also eat fruits, they'll eat seeds, leaves. There's even a type that eats mostly river reeds. But that wouldn't really make a good movie, now would it? Now, I'm not gonna sit here and act like they're not capable of mass destruction, but their PR team really did them filth. Jeremy Wade sat in a pool of allegedly trigger-happy piranhas and didn't even get touched. And the whole cow story came from a Theodore Roosevelt hunting expedition where he saw it happen. The catch is, the guides wanted to impress the president, because who wouldn't? So they actually netted off a section of the river and starved the fish in it for a week, only to feed them with a cow while Roosevelt was watching. And just like the cow, the piranha's reputation never recovered. Sometimes all it takes is one incident to royally screw over an animal. Something next on the list knows all too well. Let's just get this out the way. There are some deaths where you never forget where you were the moment you found out. For me, that's Kobe Bryant, Chadwick Boseman, and of course, Khaki Animal Jesus, aka Steve Irwin. And many have had smoke for stingray kind ever since. But before you go wage war on a water waffle, first we gotta talk about just what went down. For one, Steve Irwin got struck directly in the heart, causing massive bleeding. He also never traveled with anti-venom, because anti-venom was anti-Irwin. Wouldn't have mattered anyway, because it wasn't even the venom that did it. Again, it was the bleeding. Stingray venom isn't even all that fatal. And at the time, it was only the second reported stingray-related death in Australia since 1945. It took over an hour for him to get to emergency workers, but again, it probably wouldn't have made a difference. The point is, literally everything that could have possibly went wrong, went wrong. Like piranhas, stingrays are what a New Yorker might call a scary-at that would rather run away than run a fade. I went to the Cayman Islands a couple of months ago and visited Stingray City, and as someone religiously terrified of the ocean, I can tell you, the crepe of the coast is in fact chill like that. Pro tip, if you're ever walking around stingrays, do the stingray shuffle. You're just gonna want to drag your feet. Basically, you don't want them to leave the floor in case RNG makes you turn a ray into a welcome mat. Other than that, unless you're a crab or a fish, you really don't have much to worry about. Besides, let's not act like Steve Irwin, the same man that took a love bite from a cobra and said sorry to the snake, isn't somewhere in the afterlife eternally apologizing to the stingray for spooking him. Stingrays have been misunderstood ever since, but we can drop the vendetta. If we know anything about Steve, that's exactly what he would have wanted. Yeah, I'm really gonna have to explain putting dolphins here. Okay, well I feel like this weird thing happened where we went from Free Willy to finding out dolphins take that title seriously. So much that we ended up overcorrecting. And I personally and publicly talked endless amounts of shit. Don't get me wrong, the facts I said, I'll say again, and I'll say it with my chest. But me calling them water Weinsteins or homicidal hot dogs or a blowhole bandit, nah, that's actually still crazy. But that's just me anthropomorphizing. I don't actually think they're evil. It's fun to treat them like humans, but they're still just wild animals doing what comes naturally. It's just that what comes naturally often involves them naturally. Actually, I should never mind. Look, with intelligent animals, there's always going to be duality, and I don't even need to say it. I just have to show you these two articles. But dolphins can be wholesome too. Like the same way parents will baby talk a toddler, mother dolphins actually do with their calves. They'll also sing to their baby before it's even born to teach them to recognize the sound of its mother's voice. We also found out that dolphins in a pod will often go out of their way to make less noise so to not confuse the calf in the oven. And when it's out, being a helicopter parent means mama dolphin won't sleep for up to a month straight. There's also decent evidence that dolphins get excited around pregnant women because they can detect the fetus and understand the implication of new life. And of course, there are stories of dolphins saving people from drowning and sharks. Hey man, I'm not going soft. I'm still gonna get my jokes off whenever I can. I just feel like because they're so smart, people make the mistake of holding them to human standards, which is pretty unfair considering a lot of humans don't even reach those. Dolphins aren't Disney characters or the spawn of Satan. They're just them. And as the final boss of dolphins, you can go ahead and put orcas in that too. The greatest trick squirrels ever pulled was convincing the world they're just whimsical, nut-loving creatures, when they're actually rodent psychopaths profiting off pretty privilege. They'll eat things like baby birds, baby bunnies, and even snakes. Red squirrels are also part-time cannibals, with males that'll seek and destroy any pups, only to get with the mother of the kids they just murked. Let's not forget that time a group of squirrels dismembered a dog for barking too loud. Also, the number of squirrels with manslaughter charges is higher than you think. It's estimated that chew-happy bushtails cause up to 30,000 fires a year, not only costing millions in damage, but likely barbecuing human collateral in the process. There was even a time a squirrel damaged the electrical system of a complex with NASDAQ, freezing computers and crippling the market for over an hour. That wouldn't be the last time. In fact, one did the exact same thing 7 years later. Now, I know I'm doing the squirrels what I just admitted I've done to dolphins, but in my defense, I have a bias. I once got jumped by a pack of squirrels in Manhattan, and that was one half of a sandwich I never got back. Moral of the story, there's a reason the smartest man in the universe immediately took a knee in the face of the Acorn Mafia. And here you have another case of animal gaslight. Pigs only get the reputation of being dirty because we keep them in filth. In reality, pigs are pretty clean, and when they have a choice, they'll refuse to poop anywhere near where they eat. Pigs are arguably smarter than cats and dogs, and most experts say they're more trainable too. They somewhat passed the mirror test, and some were even taught to play video games. In '98, Lulu the potbelly saved her owner from a near-fatal heart attack by rushing out into the road and playing dead until she could get someone's attention and lead them back home. I also feel like we forget how well pigs did without us, and from the Red River hog of the Congo, to the pygmy hog of India, to the bearded Borneo pig, the swine smart enough and adaptable enough to live virtually anywhere. On a dolphin-type beat, mother pigs will often sing to their piglets while nursing, and speaking of piglets, they can recognize their name at only 2 weeks old. You can argue pigs are everything we value in an animal. They're intelligent, they're effective, affectionate, they're super trainable. Because they were bred for food, they got big screwed. Look, I'm not gonna virtue signal. You can give me 101 facts on cows, I'll probably still be out here door dashing McDonald's. But it's pretty criminal what we did to the pig's PR. Put it this way, this guy would have been by far the smartest character in the barnyard. They deserve way better than what they've gotten. And I'm not saying you have to give up bacon. All I'm gonna say is, according to cannibals, the closest tasting thing to human